What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another live. Today, we are going to talk about exercise intolerance. This is a topic brought up by a chatter yesterday, Jazan, somebody that's in the POTS group. She brought up this topic yesterday. She wanted to talk about it, and so we're going to talk about it here live, and on the net. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to wait for some people to hop into the chat, and then we'll go for it. Yeah, I think that a lot of people have this question of exercise intolerance and how to deal with it. Why does it happen? So many different things. So I think that, there's a lot of different angles to take this. There's a lot of different questions to answer. So I think that this would be a good one for chats, for questions, and also for me to kind of like take advantage of kind of the, the thing that I'm mostly an expert in, the thing that I've been doing the longest, which is exercise programming and coaching and stuff. Because a lot of this actually is like not just exclusive to POTS syndrome. A lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk about today isn't just exclusive to the POTS community. So give me a W if you are up in the chat. Give me a W if you are watching. We'll start actually talking about this in a minute. You guys ever get ingrown hairs on your leg that really hurt? Dang, dude, this thing is crazy. Hurts. Betty R, what's up? Hello, W in the chat. We're gonna wait for a little bit more, a couple more people, maybe one more person, then we'll get started. All right, we got another in the chat. We got another viewer. Let's wait for another one or two, and then we'll get straight to it. All right, here we go. So exercise intolerance. First off, what is it? What is exercise intolerance? The most simple way to put this is the inability to tolerate exercise, right? But the thing is this is kind of multifactorial or multifaceted, right? That it looks different for everybody in the sense that some people develop extreme exercise intolerance where they really can't handle any volumes of training, any volumes of exercise. And then there's people in the, the middle, the kind of the moderate part of the spectrum where it's like they can't tolerate they can tolerate some exercise, but maybe they have to do things that are very low intensity. And then there's people who are like on the light side of this where they can tolerate exercise, but just not a lot of exercise, like super high volumes. And they're able to walk, they're able to hit the rower, they're able to bike, things of that nature. So there's different ways to look at this. And basically what I think happens for people with POTS and how they develop exercise intolerance in the first place is that they start getting POTS symptoms, right? They start getting the symptoms of POTS. They start having to deal with all this stuff that's happening to them, and it creeps up slow, and they slowly lose more activity. They're losing activity until finally they've basically gotten to no activity. And so their volume of training tolerance went from like here to very, very low. So now they just can't tolerate exercise in general. And because they have POTS, the heart rate and the blood pressure do their thing, right? They dysregulate and they start causing more symptoms when that person tries to actually get back to exercise. So again, I want to make it very clear, exercise intolerance and deconditioning, I think that they're one and the same. It's not exclusive to people with POTS. The difference is that people with POTS have a harder time getting back to higher volumes of training than somebody who doesn't have POTS. So both people can decondition, both people can develop some sort of exercise intolerance, if we really want to call it that. But one person has an easier time getting back to exercise and higher volumes of exercise. And volume would just mean the amount of exercise done. One person has an easier time getting higher volume of exercise back. One person has an easier time getting a higher volume of exercise back. The other person has a much harder time, that person being the person with POTS. I think that exercise helps a lot with posture, which will help with better blood flow to the head. So every step in maintaining a good posture is key for POTS. Yeah, 100%. And then what becomes really the struggle for people with POTS is the postural position, like the positioning thing, right? A lot of people find that they have to start with recumbent biking or they have to start with rowing and things of that nature. And actually, in my experience, this isn't what's happening with the video. Is the video lagging for you guys? Is the video lagging for you? Is it glitchy on your guys' end? Can you write in the chat if it's glitching? Before I continue on, I want to figure this out. Is it glitching for you guys? Glitch is done? Okay, cool. All right, what you are explaining was me in the last 3 years, pregnancy, spinal surgery with long recovery, 2 tons long hospital stay. I feel that my muscles are gone despite walking a lot every day. Yeah, so you're going to have to do, all right, perfect. You're going to have to do more than just walk to get muscle back for sure and to retain muscle. We'll go over that in a little bit. I don't even remember where I was, to be honest with you. I think I was talking about that one person is going to have a harder time getting their exercise tolerance back up than the other person. That's going to be the person with POTS is going to have the harder time. And that's okay, and that's totally normal. And that's because you're going through some sort of nervous system dysfunction. Your blood pressure either drops significantly or it skyrockets in some people, and your heart rate goes really high. Now, I've done a bunch of different videos on why and lives on why I really don't think that that's actually an issue. The heart rate getting high, I think that it just kind of adds to the problem because people are watching their heart rate and paying too much attention to it. But I digress. Let's move on. So when you have this exercise intolerance or the deconditioning, it becomes a little bit harder to get your conditioning back for somebody with POTS because of all the reasons that I just stated, and it becomes a longer process, right? But I think in most cases, what happens, I was talking about posture and doing things like rowing, biking. Okay, now I'm back on track. So in most cases, what I have noticed is that people with POTS don't actually have that much intolerance to getting up and walking around. What the issue is that they are scared of the effects that might happen. They've heard stories on the internet. They've heard stories on YouTube, Reddit forums, Facebook, all this stuff about what could happen. And that adds to the problem. Again, the anxiety thing. We don't have to go over that a million times. I'm sick of talking about it, to be honest with you. I think that if you're watching this channel, you kind of tend to agree with that, with the theory that I have on that. Now, a lot of people, from what I've noticed, don't really have a lot of like I've dealt with people who were bedridden, right? I've dealt with people who were bedridden, and it turns out that when you ask them to go walk, they really don't have that much intolerance for walking. It turns out most times that a lot of those people can actually get up and walk. It just has to be in the safety and comfort of their home. This is why I'm so heavy on the anxiety is a portion of exercising, for people with POTS, and you have to figure out how to get over that. That's part of the reason why. Most times I get people out of their house and in the gym within 5 to 6 weeks. Most times. And that's because it's not because of an exercise intolerance thing. I sometimes trick people and I have them do the things, that, like I've had clients who have said that, their goal is to run a mile or whatever, but I've worked their running volume up to a mile without them even knowing, or their jogging volume up to a mile without them even knowing. And next thing you know, I'm like, hey, actually you can do that. You just haven't done it all in one stint yet. You need to try it. The only thing holding you back is this thing right here. And so that's not to say that there aren't people that have like real serious issues, but more times than not, via the people that I have worked with and I have coached, it's up here. Even their fatigue and all that stuff, it's up here. And even if you are fatigued, go move. It's all part of it. So anyway, but the thing can be that some positions do affect certain people. So like things like deadlifts, or things like going from laying to standing, or things like hinging over, like a back extension, 45-degree back extension. And so that is a type of exercise intolerance that's a little bit different. However, the way that you get over that, try to guess, is by doing it and starting the volumes out very small and increasing it over time. And I think that I've covered this in a different live before, but people look at exercise and building tolerance back up in such a narrow scope of, I need to do 3 sets of 10. I need to do 4 sets of 8. I need to do 10 sets of 10, whatever, without thinking about time domains and how those things, how timing and how accumulative reps and accumulative rounds can actually affect your progress and affect your ability to progress quicker or better, right? So if somebody has an issue with going from like laying to standing and they get pre-syncope and all this stuff, you know what I'm probably going to end up programming them after I, realize that now we've gotten to a point where you can like walk around, you can go to the gym, all this stuff. I'm probably going to program burpees. I'm probably going to put burpees in their program somehow so that they can get confident over the fact that like your body can regulate this. Your body can relearn how to regulate, how can relearn how to circulate blood to the right places, but you got to train it. It's not just a thing that comes back. So something that gets mixed in the weeds way too much about exercise intolerance with POTS is that people look at this as like this is how it is, and like there's no way out of it. And just over time, as long as you do cardio and as long as you walk and all this stuff, that is somehow going to be the thing that's going to fix this forever. It's not. You have to train different positions, and you have to train in different positions. That's the same, not just for people with POTS, but for people who are not chronically ill too. You don't learn how to deadlift effectively without doing the deadlift. You just don't. So if you think that you're going to learn, if you think that your body is going to learn how to not pass out or how to not go in pre-syncope and stuff like that without practicing the positions that you go into pre-syncope with, you're kind of missing the whole point. Facts. That's how me and you started, man. I went from the couch to lifting weight in around 3 months. Facts. It is awesome. I don't think I would ever progress past it. I didn't think. Yeah, exactly. So, earn progress, Mike in the chat. He's a really, really, really good example of teaching positions, of learning positions, of starting slow. We had to dial you back a little bit in the beginning, right? But he's a really good example of like being from the couch and then just listening, going slow, taking the right approach. And the thing is so many people look at like the CHOPS protocol and listen to all these people on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, and they're like, this is such a long journey and blah, blah. But with the right mindset and the right programming and the right approach to positional changes, dude, this progress comes pretty quickly. And people just don't really want to accept that. And I'm not saying literally, I'm actually not saying that I have figured out a secret sauce. This is all basic exercise phys. Exercise Phys 101. This is all really basic exercise stuff. If you guys want, go get an Exercise Phys book. Literally, I think I still have my 101 book. Go get a textbook and look at this. It goes over blood pressure regulation and changes while you while you exercise. It goes over the circulatory system. It goes over the pulmonary system. It goes over all this stuff that nobody thinks about because like most people, doctors and all these people don't have training in this, right? I remember all this stuff literally from my exercise phys 101. I remember this from some of the graduate courses, one of the graduate courses that I took in college, like this is all. So when they say, that joke about you'll never use anything that you learn in college, well, I'm actually using some of it, but this isn't just stuff that you can learn in college. So anyways, yeah, so training those positions, doing it slow, doing it in a progressive manner is very, very important. That was the hardest part, dialing back and trusting the process. Yeah, 100%. I think that another thing, well, let me touch on this real quick. I'm doing a reel today, a reel and a TikTok that is going to be, I'm going to let you guys in on it. That is the most important food for you to eat as somebody with POTS syndrome. Now, bear with me, okay? This has to do with exercise intolerance. One of the issues with exercise intolerance is that if you are somebody, which most people are, I have a big data set basically now to pull from. Most people with POTS did some sort of athletics when they were younger, or did some sort of athletics like leading up to having POTS. That at least the population that I have, for some reason, every single one of them has dealt with has done some form of formal exercise and then got kicked out of it because of POTS. So I think a big issue, even if you're not that person, a big issue is the fact that people lose muscle mass when they have POTS because they get this exercise intolerance, right? In quotes, exercise intolerance. And they stop exercising and they've lost muscle mass. Now they wonder why their circulatory system isn't working as well as it should be after that, right? The more muscle you have on your body, the better your circulation is. Bar none, until you get to those hyper physiological levels where you have such big arms that you cut off your blood circulation. That's different. That's not what we're talking about here. But with somebody who has decent amount of muscle mass, your circulation is great. It's great. Your circulation gets better. Your heart begins to function a lot better when you are fit. It works as a pump. Boom, boom, boom. It pumps blood right through your body. And then your circulatory system understands how to move blood from your extremities to your head if you need to. You learn how to, to brace your core in order to push blood to your head. All of these really important things that nobody thinks about. And so my reel today is going to be the most important thing that you're not eating is, try to take a guess. Write it in the chat. I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds starting right now. What's the most important thing to eat that you guys are not eating or that you don't eat? Pizza, good. Salt, another good guess. The most important macronutrient. Let's say that. "30 seconds is up." All right. We got meats in there, which basically hits the point. Protein. And Betty, you say animal protein, which I would prefer, but protein is what I'm looking for. So there's research on people that kind of stop exercising for a little bit of time, right? They stop exercising, but they continue to eat enough protein throughout their diet for months at a time. Turns out you don't really lose that much muscle mass. I know it looks like a lot of muscle mass because 5 pounds of muscle looks like this. It looks like a lot of tissue, but people don't eat enough protein. And in general, most people with POTS don't eat enough calories. And when they do eat enough calories, it's hyper palatable foods and it's hyper processed foods. So they're fat and they don't have any muscle because they eat way too many calories, but it's not that much food. The thing that most people get wrong with POTS is they stop eating. Sometimes you need to force eat. We're not going to talk about that in this. But sometimes, the most important thing that people are not doing in terms of nutrition, aside from the sodium balancing, electrolytes, and hydration and things of that nature, is eating enough protein. What is enough protein? It's usually 1 gram per kg, 1 gram per kg of body weight, which would come out to about 1 gram of, or 0.85 grams per pound of body weight. You need to emphasize protein, and you can have whatever opinion you want on I'm vegan, I'm vegetarian, I do this because of moral and ethics or whatever, moral values and ethics and stuff like that. I don't care. I don't want to listen to that. That's not the discussion that I'm trying to have right here. I eat meat. We probably know where I stand with that. I don't care about your moral and ethic, position on eating meats and animal meats. What I will say is this: you need to get your protein in somehow, and meats tend to be the best way. Red meat is the most nutrient dense from what I have found. And the fact of the matter is if you are chronically ill, if you're chronically sick and you need to get protein in, you should not be worried about this moral argument right now. Get better, then worry about the moral argument and find a way to get your protein in after that in a vegan or a vegetarian way. I literally deconditioned down and my POTS got bad. Didn't know I had it my whole life till I deconditioned down. Yep. I had POTS for 8 years. My body did best on paleo, but it became hard meal prep after having COVID and long COVID. Yeah, so my opinion on that statement right there is that you just gotta do it. You gotta do the thing regardless, right? You got to get your nutrition in. You have to get your protein in. Maybe you don't meal prep, but you have to get enough protein in. And protein, albeit everybody thinks that it's really hard to get enough protein, it's really freaking easy. It's really freaking easy to get enough protein. I don't care if you have to do whey protein shakes or whey isolate if whey protein hurts your tummy or whatever. I don't care if you get most of your protein from like beans or something like that. Whatever it is, cheese, whatever it is, as long as you don't have any sort of like food intolerances that have actually really, you've proven that you have real food intolerances. I don't care how you get it as long as you get it. You just have to get it in. So protein, the reason why it's the most important for me, right? The reason why is because it helps you retain muscle mass. I do have to do it. I just spent weeks with a POTS physical therapist. Good for you. How did it work out? Baby steps, getting better. Awesome. Good stuff. Hey, if you need more support, Rogue Mama, hit that link in my description. Join our POTS community. Join our positive POTS community. There's a at your own pace workout protocol, workout program. You don't need any equipment, nothing like that. And there's a community of positive POTS people that don't talk about doomsday, and we just focus on hyping each other up, getting each other better. I keep getting spam calls, guys. What the frick did they just send me? I learned how to exercise when I am not feeling well. The PT was the best. The best. I can't see. Why? Why does it do that? The best thing I did. Nice. That's good. Yeah. Okay. That's a good point to touch on too. Exercise intolerance, right? Because we had Jazan was in the chat yesterday and she was talking about like how when she's tired, should she still exercise, stuff like that. And I think that this is a big misconception as well for people with POTS, that when you have exercise intolerance, you get tired, you get fatigued, right? And so people are like, man, yesterday's workout really kicked my butt. I feel really tired today. I need to rest today. The problem with that is that if you're trying to build conditioning, if you're trying to get reconditioning, you need to learn how to work out with that feeling. You have to. That's the only way that you stop getting that feeling. That's the only way that you get better at doing it during that feeling, right? And so what my suggestion is that if you're feeling run down, if you're feeling tired, and you know, like, or if you even have a flare up and you're like, man, I really still need to get some movement and I have to make sure that I'm continuing down this path, then you need to do whatever you can tolerate. So maybe you can't go for a walk or for a jog or whatever because you're not quite there yet where you can do that all the time, or maybe you're not there at all. But regardless, get on a recumbent bike or a rowing machine or something like that, something that is seated so you can get some work in. And then if you have access to do a couple of different things, do rowing and then do walking in intervals with each other. And that, like 2 minutes on rowing, low intensity, 2 minutes of walking, low intensity, 2 minutes of rowing, low intensity, 2 minutes of walking, low intensity. 1 month doing my heavy squats, I still get those weird heart palps and anxiety, but I feel I'm progressing. Yeah, buddy. Let's go. That's right. That's right. Jazand, I had a low potassium episode. My fatigue was probably because my potassium was getting lower every day since I was out of my potassium salt. Could be it. Could be true. Could at least add to it. Here's one thing, is that eventually everybody is going to have to learn how to live their life in remission without using supplements too. That's a topic that I haven't really talked about much. If you guys look at my and me personally, I take 3 element packs a day or 3 servings of Relight, right? But the reason why I do it isn't necessarily just, exclusive to because of having POTS and to like making sure that I do the things to like stay better. I do it because my training volume is so high and my training demands are very high and I sweat like a pig. That's the reason why I still supplement so much with sodium and electrolytes, not necessarily because of POTS. I do notice, however, though, that when I go days without electrolytes, that I don't feel super good. I still feel okay, but I just don't feel amazing. As usual, My phone is hot. Hot, hot. Okay. I'm doing mostly floor Pilates with a bar and recumbent bike. I also had a flare up with heart palpitations too. My struggle is they think I developed ME CFS. So glad when you two put your channel on my feed. Hey, well, I'm glad you're here. I am glad you are here. We talked about CFS and ME yesterday. And kind of my thoughts on that with POTS. I missed the first part of the live. Did I miss a bunch about exercise intolerance? Yes, you did. I'm having a hard time advocating at the doctors currently. At the same time, I'm not even sure what a specialist could offer to help. All right. I'm going to keep it 100 right here. I'm going to keep it a full stack about doctors and PTs and things of that nature when it comes to POTS. Stop going. Just stop going. Oh, man. This is my recommendation. you got the diagnosis of POTS, okay? A lot of people got the diagnosis of POTS. And then a lot of people don't have any sort of other underlying condition after they get diagnosed with POTS. Most people who have some sort of like deadly, life-threatening, again, another spam call. Most people that have a deadly, life-threatening or some sort of like really serious diagnosis with POTS, usually it came before POTS, quite a while before POTS, and POTS has become a side effect of their POTS. How do I know this? I work with people that have POTS. I have a large database to pull from, a decently large database to pull from. So what happens with a lot of you guys that have POTS, and I went through this, and I'm trying to save you the heartache and the time, genuinely. You're looking for so much reassurance. It's no longer a health concern. It's a mental health issue. It has nothing to do with, is there something actually wrong with me? You guys ever like explore the world of OCD and anxiety and how something's always wrong and there's intrusive thoughts about, like we talked about this before too. Something's always wrong and you need reassurance all the time and blah, 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 blah. But this time this is going to kill me. This time this is serious. This time this is something is wrong. So I need to get the specialist. I need to get the referral. I need to go. They're going to tell you the same shit. They're going to tell you the same thing every single time. Nothing's wrong. You're okay. Nothing's wrong. You're okay. Nothing's wrong. You're okay. You guys, just stop looking for the reassurance that you're looking for because you're not going to get it. I mean, plain and simple. Sugimoto, your situation's a little bit different. We work together. Yours is a little bit different, obviously. But this is my general, recommendation to most people with POTS that don't have an underlying other like condition or a serious condition, right? Because most people with POTS don't have an underlying condition. Most people don't. And so what happens is now I'll get into CFS and ME right now. What happens is so many people also get the +1 diagnosis of CFS, ME, IBS, all this stuff. We talked about this yesterday. And it's all got the same, everything that you have has the same symptoms. Everything that you have has the same symptoms. It's just sometimes the doctors don't know what to do, dude. And you don't give them they don't even have the option to just kick you out and say, hey, because if they kick you out and they say you're fine, then now suddenly it's gaslighting. Now suddenly the doctors aren't sensitive or whatever. But they're not telling you that you're fine. They're just telling you that you don't have anything else that we can tell you. So you're fine. You have POTS, you're fine. You don't have anything else that we can tell you. And I have been in that position where I've been like, the doctors are gaslighting, they're assholes, blah, 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 blah. Especially leading up to getting diagnosed with POTS. I can empathize with that. I can empathize for people that don't have any diagnosis and they go through that. There is a little bit of I wouldn't call it gaslighting. That's just way too much, too heavy of a word, and it gets used way too often for no reason. But I will say that it is kind of it puts you down, it gets you in a bad mood, that type of stuff. But after you get the diagnosis of POTS, there's no gaslighting happening. There's no, it doesn't work like that. Just because they're not confirming a bias or something that you want doesn't mean that they're not, that they're gaslighting you. My specialist tested a few vitamins and stuff in the blood to see if any POTS worsening levels were off. He told me to try a month worth of vitamin C and B6, and he got me trying a few POTS meds. Yeah, I'm actually big on checking histamine and homocysteine, and checking out your methylation pathways and cycles and stuff like that, and even getting gene reports done because of that stuff. So B6, I've noticed that a lot of people who, there's a couple different things here. A lot of people who have POTS, generally their methylation pathways are off, and that's not just due to the MTHFR thing. I know a lot of people are going crazy about MTHFR right now. There can be a ton of different reasons why you have low B6 or why you need to supplement with pyridoxal 5-phosphate and stuff of that nature. There can be a lot of different reasons. But yeah, generally P or B6, I was going to say P5P because it's the active form of B6. Generally, It's a really, 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 really good supplement for people to take in general, especially people with POTS. I'm not even sure if I have a different condition that caused the POTS. I guess that's what I've been trying to figure out. I'd like to think that that'll help me get a better idea for treatment. It won't. POTS is POTS is POTS. It's treated the same way across the board, no matter what. So if you for example, if you got POTS because of a viral infection, or if you got POTS because you had a concussion, or if you got POTS because of whatever reason, it's likely that you will just have POTS, but you still treat it the same way. There's no underlying, like if you got POTS and then if you got a concussion and you got brain damage and you got POTS, you're not going to fix POTS by dealing with the brain damage type thing. You know what I mean? The brain damage is like a completely separate issue. Maybe it will help, but you still treat POTS the same way. With viral infection, if you get POTS, sometimes if you clear the virus, then the POTS will clear up a little bit, but that probably means that you didn't have POTS then. It was just an effect or side effects of the virus. Now, if it stays around after you've cleared the virus, because viruses can stay in your system for a very long time, parasites can do all this stuff, all that stuff, it's still treated the same way at the end of the day. I'm fortunate to have an amazing PCP for over 20 years who never did that. We worked together on my treatment plan. That's amazing. You got really lucky. That's very good. What if you have MSAS with POTS? This is a tough one because this is another thing that's like really going viral. So I guess, can you like narrow down your question a little bit more? Can you be more specific about it? I disagree. There are a lot of things like lupus that cause POTS, and then you do get a little better by treating the lupus. Yeah, the key thing that you just said there is a little better by treating the lupus. A little better. But here's the thing, Jazan, right? How do you know if it's POTS if you had lupus first? You have no idea. You could have a bunch of, like, lupus can cause a bunch of the same symptoms that people with POTS have. This is like saying, this is akin to like you get COVID and the flu, and then you're like, it's just the flu. It's just the flu. You know what I mean? That caused all this stuff. Like it's akin to saying that because you got one thing, you can cure the other thing, but it might not even be, like, if you didn't test, right? Like it might not even be the flu and COVID. I don't know if that makes sense, what I'm trying to say, but if you have lupus, you can have the same symptoms as POTS. It can manifest. Trust me. I've had other clients with POTS. I've gotten on client calls or like, consultation calls for people with lupus that also got diagnosed with POTS. The thing is that there's no blood test. There's no antibody test. Actually, that's not true. There is supposedly an antibody test that you can take for POTS to see if it has something to do with your, with your immune system or whatever. I can't think of the words right now. But there supposedly is a test that can give you some clarity on that. Supposedly. I haven't had anybody that's had that test. But there's no direct test that you can take to tell you have POTS, as if you could COVID, as if you could the flu, as if you could lupus, as if you could mold toxicity, as if you could metal toxicity. So the fundamental argument there is that if you have an underlying condition and you treat the underlying condition and your POTS symptoms like go away, you probably didn't have POTS. It was probably the other condition, and it manifested with POTS symptoms. COVID and the flu look the same for the most part. So if you didn't test for it, which one do you got? Rogue Mama, if you can, I just burped. Sorry, guys. Rogue Mama, if you can be more specific about your question, I might be able to help you. I might be able to answer. Might is the key word. Yes, but if you treat POTS, but it turns out to be lupus, then not looking further F's you over. Yeah, but if you have lupus, it's probably going to be a lot more clear than if you have POTS. Lupus is like a much more like you will know if you have lupus over POTS. It's a much more extreme thing. There's more things associated with lupus than there is POTS, and doctors actually become concerned about lupus. Most doctors know how lupus manifests. They're going to check you for lupus if they think that you have lupus. It's not the same as POTS where they're like, you're dizzy sometimes, you get presyncope, all this stuff. Like it's not the same in that sense. Like at least not in the States, it's not the same. You know, my mom, one of the first things that they tested her for last year because of a host of symptoms that she was having was lupus. She got tested for lupus, and immediately they did the blood test for lupus, and they thought that she had lupus based on the blood test. But the point that I'm trying to make, she ended up not having lupus. The main point that I'm trying to make here is that they're not just gonna let it go with lupus, you know? And lupus is probably going to be found before POTS will be found, because your doctor is going to have real concerns about things. And even if so, if you go into the doctor with these hosts of symptoms and you're like, I think it might be POTS, they're probably going to run blood tests on you anyway to make sure that it's not just POTS. They're going to be like, yeah, these symptoms that you're having are a little bit weird. These are the tests that we're recommending. So you're probably going to find it. I interviewed my doctor and he gave me a whole A4 list of things that cause POTS. So lupus may be found first, but you know what I mean. You say that, but I don't believe they always find the cause first. But I'm not even saying that it's the cause for your POTS, because I'm saying that lupus might just be the thing. Lupus just might be the thing. It might not be POTS. Lupus is manifesting POTS symptoms, but they're lupus symptoms too. That's the whole point. What I really, really, really think needs to happen in this community, the chronic illness community, this needs to stop happening, where people are so focused on root cause, kind of, right? This is what the issue is. Okay, look. Now the argument is lupus may be found first, but you know what I mean. But if lupus is found first and you clear lupus and your POTS symptoms go away, it wasn't POTS, it was lupus. So when you go to the doctor, they're going to give you tests if you ask for it. If you're like, my heart is doing this, if you give them all the things that are really concerning and you haven't had a pre-diagnosis before, your doctor is going to run tests on you. They will not deny you. If you've never come in with a health concern before or whatever it is, and you're like, hey, my chest is really hurting, my heart is fluttering a bunch, they're going to order you tests. They're going to have you do blood tests. They might put you on a Holter monitor. They're going to give you an EKG. They're going to do all these things. Now, you can't go to the hospital with all that stuff because they're only going to do so little, but that's not what the hospital is for anyways. And doctors will give you referrals to other people. But if they find something else on a blood test and they give you a diagnosis that you don't like, that doesn't mean that what you're saying is right. That if you find lupus first and you treat lupus and your lupus is cleared, right? And your POTS goes away, it was lupus. It wasn't POTS. This is what I'm talking about with the hyperfixation in the chronic illness community. It's like everybody wants to find the secret root cause. Just treat the root cause. Treat POTS. Treat it the same thing that you do for lupus. Not the same thing that you do for lupus, but one of the recommendations for lupus, and this is the recommendation for a healthy lifestyle in general, is nutrition, hydration, exercise. That's the recommendation for everything. If you have IBS, nutrition, probiotics, exercise, hydration. That's how you treat POTS. That's how you treat most chronic illness. When you have, MCAS is a little bit different, right? But chronic fatigue syndrome, hydration, nutrition, try to exercise. It's all the same stuff. Just do the stuff. Stop wasting. My whole argument is Stop wasting time. People get so much analysis or paralysis by analysis because they're like, I need to find every single detail. No, you don't. You don't. If you need to find, if you're, it's the argument of like, you're trying to wait for the perfect time. There's no perfect time ever to start anything. I can tell you that with full confidence and full experience. I have started 5 different businesses in my life. I have done YouTube. I have gotten chronic illness. I have prepped for bodybuilding shows, for powerlifting shows, done CrossFit. I've done so many things in my life that I could have been like, I just got to wait till I know. I just got to wait till I see a program. I got to wait till I have the details. I got to wait till I have the money. I got to wait until I see all the doctors. I got to wait until I know my food sensitivity. No, you don't. You don't have to wait to start any of this shit. You don't have to wait. Just do it. Just do it. Just start doing the things. You are right. I'm just afraid people will not go to the doctor because you say this and then they may miss an important diagnosis, but I guess it's not really good to go argue with you or out of fear. It's not even an argument, Jazan. It's like the point is that so many people will just wait. So many people will wait. And I'm not telling people not to go to the doctor, but what I'm saying is if you've gone to the doctor, most of you guys who are watching this video and people who will watch this video have gone to the doctor. Most of you guys have gotten 3 to 17 EKGs already. Most of you guys watching this and about to watch this have gotten umpteen thousand blood tests. Most of you guys have gotten CT scans. Most of you guys have gotten MRIs. So what I'm trying to prevent is the anxiety of you people and even myself getting anxiety. And well, this is what happened to me in the past, right? Not anymore. Having the anxiety and then feeding it by waiting until I get all of the information. I need to go to the doctor. I can't do anything about this. I'm helpless. No, that's retarded. That's so stupid. No offense. I'm not saying that you're stupid or retarded, Jazan. Please don't take it that way. But it's retarded to sit there and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. Dude, you're going to die. You will be 50 years old and realize, geez, I never did anything about this. I kept waiting to go to the doctor. All the doctors told me my blood work came back fine. My EKGs came back fine. My CT scans, my MRIs, my x-rays, my mold, my heavy metals. And I just I couldn't get over the fact that I thought something was wrong. That's OCD. That's anxiety. That's a perfect manifestation of what those things are. And I'm really finding it is of my opinion. A lot of people, it's my opinion. I'm going to talk about this with somebody at some point, that a lot of people with POTS aren't really suffering from POTS. They're suffering from mental illness. That's one of my opinions. Or that mental illness is 50% of the battle. That is a genuine opinion that I have. It's a genuine opinion that I have. Yes, I understand your message better now. Thank you. Yeah, totally. And I'm not trying to be mean to you, Jazan. I'm not saying that you're absolutely completely wrong. People need to go to the doctor, by the way. You have to. I have my opinion on that too. For the most part, people should go to the doctor in the beginning of all this stuff. Absolutely. Later on, when you've been told everything's okay, you've had all the tests and blah, blah, there's no reason to keep getting the tests. There's just not. That's the other point that's the other problem that I have with these other POTS creators that are like, I'm going back to my doctor because I know something's wrong with my heart and I had an EKG yesterday, but I felt this heart palpitation again. So my doctor is stupid and I'm going to go get an EKG again today because I know something's wrong with me. And I'll update you guys in 15 minutes. I'm like, dude, you're retarded. No. Yep, I wasted too much time trying to figure out the cause. Mentally, it held me back from accepting I have this disability illness. There will be ups and downs. Yeah, when it's like you have legitimate actionable steps that you can take today. You can drink more water. You can supplement with electrolytes. You can do those things. You can clean up your diet. Or rather, what I would like you to do is just track your crappy diet for the next 7 days and figure out what foods seem to be causing you symptoms and then clean up your diet after that. There's actionable steps that you can do without getting any data from doctors. There are so many things. And to be honest with you guys, no offense to doctors, but doctors most times can't even help a person with POTS. They have no clue what they're doing. Fortunately, people trusted me 2 years ago to let me help them, and I've gathered a whole bunch of information. And there's other people like the POTS coach. She's done a great job too, from what it seems. There's people I'd be willing to go toe to toe with the doctor and ask them, how many people have you gotten from bedridden to work in 3 months? I'll go toe to toe with you. You owe me $100,000 if I've done more. I'd be willing to go toe to toe with them. And it's not that I have information that they don't have access to. It's not that I am some sort of God and that I have some sort of knowledge. It's just like I have the experience and they don't have the time, and they always want to pimp and push a pill. And I'm like, hey, there's these lifestyle factors. Have you thought about this? Data shows that all this stuff is good for longevity, chronic illness, for, having muscle mass helps increase circulation. Being tolerant to exercise is built through time and through progressive exercise. This is all in exercise phys books. Put all the science together and figure it out. I don't know. There's a lot about the argument for mental illness being a force feedback loop for POTS. I wonder if you've ever heard things like the Gupta program or the ANS rewire. It seems like it's successful. The ANS rewire, you're going to have to remind me, but I believe that that's the thing that's like about breathing and like positive affirmations and stuff, and like, neuroplasticity. I think that neuroplasticity and meditation and all that stuff definitely has its place. The problem is that feedback loops for people with I did a huge dive into neuroscience, neuroplasticity and stuff like that when I was younger. That was my intended major in college. Towards the end of it, I'm not going to act like I did a bunch of neuroscience stuff, but I was very interested in it for a long time. The problem is that I don't think it's very practical for most people. I have a new client, a new one-on-one client. She onboarded about 3 weeks ago. Who went through one of those types of programs. And dude, every single time that I have a client that's gone through one of those programs, it does not work. And I think that breathing, meditation, all that stuff, it's very good for the autonomic nervous system. Obviously, there's tons of data to support it. The problem is that it's not very practical for people during daily life, because most people just won't stay consistent with that stuff. Most people will not stay consistent with that stuff. And most people, when they're having a panic attack or whatever, the feedback loops, like they're having anxiety because of, their feedback loop in their brain and stuff like this. And they're training neural patterns to like kind of be negative and stuff. Most people won't think to breathe. Most people won't think to kind of change their mindset and change their thought process. That's why I'm of the opinion that you learn this stuff by proving to you, and there's data on this too, right? There's data on what's it called? Confidence building and neuroplasticity, in the sense that like when you learn things, right? When you have to do things in order to learn it, it rewires your brain. It rewires the circuitry, like the synapses and all that stuff, right? It takes effect. So like when you prove to yourself things, right? So when you don't want to go to a restaurant, for example, with somebody with POTS because it's too overstimulating or whatever, you don't want to because it causes you a lot of anxiety. When you actually go do the thing, you are physically rewiring the circuitry in your brain to be able to handle that. When you prove to yourself, like, I'm really anxious, I don't think that I can walk a half a mile, so I'm just going to do 0.25, but then you do 0.35 instead, you have now started the rewiring the circuitry in your brain to be able to handle more volume and more tolerance. So it doesn't just come down to exercise tolerance. It comes down to the mindset shifting too, right? And so the breathing and the meditation, all that stuff, I'm big on that. I pray, I do that stuff. I love it. I think it's amazing. However, I think the most effective thing is to have actual real life proof that you can do things and to prove it to yourself. Influencer voice is on point. Thanks. Yes. Rogue Mama. Yes, I ended up seeing a therapist dealing with my chronic illness. It helped me reframe. Good. That's great. If therapy helps you out, 100%. That's great. In the Netherlands, we have a list of specialists who know about POTS because most doctors have never heard of POTS. That's awesome. That's really cool. I like breathing stuff and anti-stress thinking to manage excess adrenaline. Yeah. I think too, for the adrenaline thing. So a lot of people with POTS, I've like kind of made the recommendation to look in the COMT gene and things that can affect that, because what that does is it can prevent catecholamines from being processed through your body in like appropriate timing, I guess. Wherein you could have a slow variant of the COMT gene, or you could have a fast variant. And for the fast variant, it could be somebody like they get really anxious and they're like, they're moving around a lot, right? And the slow variant is that they can't dump catecholamines basically. Like they can't like it's a harder process it's harder for them to process catecholamines basically. And what that means is like noradrenaline and adrenaline, things of that nature. You could be having anxiety and look like this, like you're unbothered, right? I have a slow COMT variant, and that's why like with when I drink coffee, I don't get like jittery and stuff, or when I have caffeine, I get like this, like I'm talking a lot, like let's freaking go, you know. Probably explains why I never did cocaine, because I'd get like addicted to it for sure. Rogue Mama, I still work full time with some accommodations. It is possible I have to get back to work to keep shouting this. I will check out your community later. Yeah, do it. Hit that link in description, dude. I remember when I was first dealing with POTS and I had no idea what was going on. It was really hard for me to work, but I had to push through because I had no idea what was going on. And there was a lot of times where like I actually left work and I owned a business, dude. I was struggling. I would leave. I'd be like, hey, my kid has an emergency. I got to leave. Sorry. You know, and I'd leave. And I ended up losing a couple clients because of that stuff. And I ended up, I had to deal with it. You know what I mean? And I dealt with it. And yeah, but I continued to work the entire time. It is possible. It's absolutely possible. Some people are gifted with a mindset because they went through life a certain way that whether they're having struggles or not, they have to deal with real life, you know? And that's not to put anybody down. That's not to say anything about anybody. It just is what it is, right? Some of us, no matter what, we don't have anybody or anything to fall back on. So you have to push through no matter what. I live in the Northeast. There's not really any doctors out here that can help. When I asked my doctor for those blood tests, homocysteine, et cetera, he just passed me off to the specialist. That's interesting. It's very weird. That's a very normal PCP thing to do. I guess it doesn't matter. I'm already taking certain supplements and exercising when I can. I've heard that even the people that do these brain retraining programs don't get better until many years. Yeah, I have had a lot, not a lot, I guess, but like a few experiences with people that have done the brain retraining stuff. I've had clients that did the brain retraining while they were working with me, and they like completely just jump off of it. From what I've seen, it's just not worth it. That's just what I have seen. Mostly, I would say though, I don't know if the program is indirectly not worth it. What I would say is that people with POTS, this is going to hurt some of your guys' feelings. People with POTS have a tendency to not be very consistent. So I don't know if it's the program's fault or if it's the person's fault. So that's where I stand on that. I think that most things can work dependent on how committed you are to the process. Most things can work. I prefer my way, but I have a lot of data, you know, and I have a lot of things to work off of. I have a lot of success stories. So I prefer my way, but if you try another way, that's totally fine. I also try to really skip the BS. You know, I skip the BS. I get straight to business. We just do what you're supposed to do. People with POTS or people in general? Yeah, people in general. That's good correction. You're right. People in general have a very hard time being consistent. It gets worse when you feel like crap, though. You know? Yeah, but yeah, people in general. I think a lot of people, it's not, I don't really, man, I don't know how to say this without like saying it, but I think a lot of people, it's not really their fault that they're not consistent, but then it is their fault, right? Like it's a double-edged sword. They grew up in a family that maybe did everything for them. They never had any responsibilities put on them, or like, you know, they were given, you know, a golden spoon or a silver spoon or whatever. So they didn't really have to be consistent with anything. And then, you know, but then when you get older, it's absolutely 1,100 billion%, if that's a number, your responsibility to be consistent and to take accountability and responsibility. But a lot of people just won't do it. Yep. Our brain is also made to follow up on instant results. When you have to wait for the results, everyone has a harder time. I really have to remind myself what I'm doing this for, the end result. Yeah. Well, I think that like our brain has been conditioned to be that way, you know? I don't think that we're actually designed that way. I think our brains have been conditioned for instant gratification, and most people, unfortunately, I mean, I have this talk with clients all the time, and I have this talk with friends and stuff all the time that you have to like man, I don't even know how to like explain this without like being a business guru, like one of those cool Instagram business guru guys. But it's like so many people, if they don't get results overnight, and that could be like, that could be 3 months from now or a year from now, right? They just like give up and they don't want to do it anymore. And a lot of people, it takes a lot less time. It's like 1 week or even a few days where they're trying something and they like don't get any results. And they're like, what the frick, right? Dude, this YouTube channel that I have had that you guys are watching is a product of 10 years. I think it's 10 years or more. Go look at the year that I started my channel, and it's been on and off. And a lot of that had to do with like being scared to post content, not knowing what kind of content to post, what, etc. I almost just spelt out, etc. Wow. Can anybody tell that I have a lot of texting and emails that I do every single day? So, but the point is that it's been like 10 years and I'm finally getting like traction on this video, on this YouTube channel. And then my other YouTube channel, which is like my counterculture podcast, people are like, you only have 400 subscribers, or you're only, and I'm like, yeah, dude, it hasn't even been a year. Like, what do you think? Like, you wouldn't do it if you didn't get, like, 400 to me is a lot in a year, especially for a podcast that talks about things that like a lot of people don't want to hear, like, but for me, it's long game. Everything is long game. And if you're so weak that you can't look to the future of your goals and what it looks like and what it takes to get there, if you're not willing to sacrifice, if you want to call it that, for time, then you're never going to get what you want. It's the discussion that I have with people that have pots, right? Where I'm like, look, you might have to eat the same thing for like, 6 months, day in and day out, and not have a cheat day. If you want to feel fully better, you might have to stick to a stringent schedule of get up, go to bed, at certain times, go work out, do all these things that you need to do for 6 months. And they're like, I can't do that. And I'm like, well, then it doesn't hurt that bad. Then you don't care enough. You know what I mean? And that's just the God's honest truth, right? But they're like, but I need to live a life. I'm like, but are you living a life? Like, are you living one right now? Are you living a fulfilled, satisfied life? You keep complaining about why you can't do things and that, like, you want to feel better and all this stuff. So my argument is, are you even living now? So give everything up that you're like talking about, cookies and all this BS, for 6 months and stick to a schedule, and then you get to like reap the rewards. Most of my clients, as long as they do everything the right way, right? 3 months. 3 months. And that's why I have a 3-month commitment for one-on-one clients. 3-month commitment. You can stay with me after that if you'd like, but you don't have to. And my goal is to always make sure that you don't need me. And if you're staying with me, you want to be, but all of this takes time and, dedication and, consistency. And it just is what it is, dude. And for the people that won't be consistent and won't try, to do things, like, you don't want it bad enough. I'm sorry to tell you, like, you don't want it bad enough. If you're willing to, for one day, go and eat a pizza or go and eat, stuff that isn't conducive to your health, you don't want it bad enough. I'm just going to keep it real with you. You say you do, and you might cry about it and all this stuff, but really you're just letting yourself down. You're probably crying about the fact that you let yourself down subconsciously more than you're crying about the fact that you don't feel good. You guys, did somebody put me in like a POTS group or something? Because not only am I getting a bunch of spam calls, but I'm also like, I have on Instagram, my page, my main page has like, holy nuts. I think I got like between 10 and 15 new followers today, which is not normal for my personal page whatsoever. What's your opinion, knowledge on gluten for POTS? That's a good question. I think if you are thriving and you don't have any sort of like gut dysbiosis or IBS or anything like that, I don't think that gluten is an issue. I think that gluten for a lot of people is an issue because, hold on one second. I got to go get my phone charger. Phone's about to die. And I do need it. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Dog pooped in the house. Had to clean that up. Not yet. Shut up. More spam. Okay. What is your opinion, knowledge on gluten for POTS? Okay, so like I was saying, I think that if you're thriving, you can have gluten. So like if you're not having any sort of like gut dysfunction or anything like that, I think that POTS can be, or that gluten can be totally fine and part of a normal diet. My general opinion on gluten is that it's probably not the greatest thing to have in your diet. I'm not going to act like a nutrition scientist or anything like that, but I have been doing and studying nutrition for a very long time in terms of like I have done diets for people for a very long time. I used to be a bodybuilding diet coach for a while. And so gluten, I see that a lot of people have problems with gluten. That's just what I have like actually seen. I don't want to demonize gluten because I think that if you're in a good spot, that having it every now and then is okay. But I definitely don't recommend it as a normal part of everybody's diet. Gluten, for the most part, I see exacerbates a lot of people's symptoms. When I have clients like take a week of journaling, take a week to journal their symptoms, whenever they have like gluten in some forms of dairy, a lot of times, or like simple sugars like refined carbohydrate and stuff like that, their symptoms are worse. Now, I eat gluten every weekend. I'll have something with gluten in it. So, but I am like in a better spot, a different spot than I was before, right? I didn't have gluten for a very long time, probably a couple of years. Do you guys know who Ronnie Radke is? He's a G. That's who he is. Oh man. Let me update you guys on the POTS program real quick. Still can't find a designer. Still can't find a designer that will actually do work. It's crazy. I have never in my life met or talked to so many people within the same profession that do the same thing. It's crazy. Like, you know how they say about like, don't stereotype people. Well, I'm for sure stereotyping graphic designers from now on. Straight up. What other questions you guys got? I'm so thirsty. Okay. All right, guys. Yeah, designers are out the window for me. I can't believe it. So I'm just gonna have to figure this out myself. We're just gonna have to do it. I literally can't even pay somebody to do a job. It's insane to me. I've never, ever in my life met a profession that was so unprofessional. So I have to I gotta figure this out myself. So I guess I'm gonna do a lot of YouTubing of how to use all the rest of my Adobe programs. I guess that's kind of where we're at now, which is all right. I think I'm gonna hop off stream now so I can get to it. Get to some other work. Sorry, I just kind of left you guys in silence there. I really need to figure out this this designer thing, and so trying to figure that stuff out. It's annoying. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, but just with anything that I tell you guys here, right? You're not a victim. Figure it out. Yeah. Figure it out. All right. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I appreciate y'all for chilling with me every single day like you always do. Today, we had the most concurrent viewers at one time that we have ever had. So at least I think it's the most. We had quite a few. So anyway, whoa, lots of burps. Thank you guys so much for chilling with me. Thanks for asking questions. Thanks for watching. I hope y'all have an amazing Thursday. And I don't know if I'll be on tomorrow. My son and I have kickboxing together tomorrow. I signed us up for one-on-one sessions with an old coach of mine. So we have one-on-one session, and then I have to do an actual workout because I'm signing up for that the High Rocks competition. So yeah, we're going to be making more content around that. And yeah, dude, that's it. So thanks so much for watching. Hopefully I'll be on tomorrow. If I'm not, then I'll see you guys on Monday. Thanks so much again. We'll talk to y'all in the next one. Peace out. Goodbye.